Hello, my name is Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. Finally, we hit the end. We reached the conclusion of this slog through of an atrocious adaptation of Tolkien's Legendarium, Amazoff Rings of Prime Season 1, Episode 8, Alloyed. The worst episode is still the 5th episode, but this 8th episode is literally almost as bad. In fact, there's one aspect where it can said to be the worst. It contains the most lore violations by far of any episode. In my companion video, I go over those, and the reason this is took a week to get this review up, it took like 4 days to do the lore break video. Let's get to it. Soon we get through it, soon we're done with this. Production, production is largely the same. The good background and large-scale set work, horrible in-close set work, direction, writing, horrible fight combat choreography, etc., etc. I'm not going to belabor the point about production issues over and over again. The one thing, however, to point out, this show is entirely built around depicting key character scenes or events with little thought to a logical plot structure being used to arrive at them. You know, we talked about that back in, I say episode 3 or so, or 4, with the whole Theo and the friend in the town. Conveniently there, Arondir just happens to go to the town. The Númenóreans happen to ride to the town. Now let's move past all that quail sauce and get right to the meat. This episode, we saw the merging conclusion of several plot arcs. Galadriel and Sauron's storyline merged into the storyline of Elrond and Celebrimbor. The tale of Meteor Man and the savage dirtbags we know as Heartbeat concludes, of course, with opening another mystery box. Tamriel and Elendil return to Númenor as Tar Palantir dies and Farazan begins more of his plotting. I will discuss each of these 3 arcs. I will gust them. I'm going to gust them. It's a New English word, guys. I will discuss each of these 3 arcs as their own. Although, to be honest, the Númenorian one is not a lot to talk about. Afterwards, I'll talk briefly about where the show's likely to go next season and why they're doing this. Now, I do it completely, as I said, I do a separate lore video. So I'm not going to harp about lore violations in this episode, which many of you watching this who know the lore probably had a stroke several times. First up, the tale of Galadriel and Sauron and their adventures in ring making. If they're somehow traveling what appears to be more than 1,000 miles, but less than 2,000, depending on which map you go by in the lore, okay? And depending on around horseback, etc., a trip that should take at least 50 days, assuming the horses are traveling 25 miles per day, they do it in what seems like a couple of days. They arrive at Ostin Edhill, which is the city they keep showing you where Celebrimbor is. I don't know if they've ever named it in the show, but it's Ostin Edhill, and it's kind of where Celebrimbor governs the whole region from the Elven perspective. Halbrand, whom the observant audience know as Sauron by now, held up remarkably well from his mortal wound, as those horse galloped at something like 1/4 the speed of sound to make that trip in the time the writers allowed for the story, which was the same amount of time it took apparently for the ship to sail back to Númenor and many other things. Okay? Of course, Halbrand makes a very fast recovery and immediately begins ingratiating himself with Celebrimbor, which leads to the events that end with the forging of the 3 Elven rings by Celebrimbor after Halbrand departs for Rivendell, Mount Doom. Even in a show about the Rings of Power, where Celebrimbor should feature prominently, he comes across as a secondary character for the entire season. I'm not sure he gets more than an hour of screen time in this show. Honestly, the forging of these rings feels like it's been tacked on at the end of the season. Okay. Now, for the events on Númenor, other than some teases and the death of Tar Palantir, this subplot seems to have been tacked on to this episode. They probably would have been better to include as an epilogue to the prior episode. You see when they cut between the scenes, you're supposed to assume they occur in the same time sequence in the show, or a movie or whatever. By including these Númenorian scenes, they throw the timing of events and the other subplots way off. And lastly, for the saga of Meteor Man and the daring Nori versus the evil three amigos. Maybe it's because I think in purely visual terms, but these 3 acolytes of Sauron come across as Eminem, Marvin the Martian, and the Cat Girl, rather than anyone menacing. This is proven if they steal the Wizard's duel between Saruman and Gandalf from Peter Jackson's Fellowship, when Meteor basically erases them when he gets the staff. And the sad truth is, if you edit out all the crap that makes the Heartbeat look like sociopathic savages for the season, we probably could have had this point in their plot by the end of the 3rd episode. Was Rings of Prime what we expected? Maybe. Did the wokeism deviancy from the lore make this a no-go from the start? Probably. But the reality is the horrible writing and direction made it utterly impossible for Amazon's Rings of Prime to even get to the point where the horrible woke subversion of deviancy from lore could hurt it. This was bad writing comparable to the worst of fan fictions and self-insertion fan fictions out there, and already in production for season 2. What could they be having in season 2? Only Manwë knows. Only Uvatar knows. Because there's a running joke that the plan is to have Kate Blanchett wake up as Galadriel and having a horrible prophetic dream about how things could have gone wrong, but they need to just reboot this. Say, we fucked up. We're rebooting the whole dang thing. We'll recast it. We're going to get an actress to play Galadriel who's actually not 5'0", who's at 6 feet tall at least. We're going to adhere to the lore instead of what we think we're doing and all that. But they're not going to do that. They're going to double down. Every horrible bit of writing you saw this season, every bit of woke, every bit of lore violation, they're going to do twice as bad. Thanks for watching my video. Smash the like button if you liked it. Hit the dislike if you didn't. Comment down below if you have questions for me about this video. Please share the video if you found it worthwhile. I'm Matt. This has been another episode of Unbearable 73. Have a nice day, and I am out of here.